Hey all, new day, new verse, and I can't wait to dig on in to Matthew 26 verses 69 to the end of it at 75. Peter denies Jesus, and it is a heavy section of verse, and it's one that I'm excited to get into for a couple of reasons. So let's dig into it. Although before we do, I do want to apologize about not posting for Monday and Tuesday. I admittedly just needed to recharge a little. And in doing so, I saw something in here that made me both sorrowful and hopeful, and then filled with much joy. So let's get into it. Here we go. 69. Meanwhile, Peter was sitting outside the courtyard. So when everything's going on with Jesus before the council, all this is happening, Peter's seeing it. He's there, right up until the point where he gets chased off. He's seeing all this. So a servant girl came over and said to him, "You were one of those with Jesus the Galilean." But Peter denied it in front of everyone. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Later, out by the gate, another servant girl noticed him and said to those standing around, "This man was Jesus of Nazareth." Again, Peter denied it, this time with an oath. "I don't even know the man," he said. A little later, some of the other bystanders came over to Peter and said, "You must be one of them. We can tell by your Galilean accent." Peter swore, "A curse on me if I'm lying. I don't know the man." And immediately the rooster crowed. Suddenly Jesus' words flashed through Peter's mind. "Before the rooster crows, you will deny 3 times that you even know me." And he went away, weeping bitterly. I've had a lot of thoughts about this verse over my life. The first thought about, I'd go away weeping bitterly too. In the same moment, I find it a thing of beauty, and I think you'll see the joy and the beauty and and all of it coming together. It is heartbreaking that Peter denies him 3 times, especially since we don't know the intent of the servant girl, especially when it's the servants that tend to know the beauty of who Jesus is first. Think about when he turned water into wine. Think about how often it's the servants who got to see what was really happening first. The people who do so much but are treated as so little by the world, God sees and reveals himself in such a beautiful way. And so we don't know if these first 2 servant girls are saying it because they want to know what's happening to Jesus. We don't know if they're saying because they want to point him out. We don't know. We don't know their heart. We simply know that Peter ran after saying, no, I didn't. And there's this beauty here in that Jesus said, you're going to do this. The Word made flesh says you're going to do it, so obviously he knows. And it's interesting that Peter says there, "A curse on me if I'm lying. I don't know the man." And then the words that Jesus spoke to him come to him. So it feels like, maybe if the reason Peter wasn't cursed is because he really didn't know. It wasn't until after the fact that Peter suddenly realized. It wasn't until after the crucifixion and the resurrection that the disciples suddenly realized. Generally, it's not till after that we have enough to go back and say, "Oh, wow, God moved mountains." And then weeping bitterly, to me here, is not just because of the denying 3 times. I find it wondering, is he having a moment of realization of, do I really know him? Do I really know the Messiah? Because this is the question he's struggling with here. Not only has he denied it in public 3 times, but in a way, because he didn't believe the Lord when he said, "You will deny me 3 times." When the Word made flesh says, "Hey, you're going to do this." When God made flesh says, "You're going to do this. You're going to do it." But rather than hear that God said, "Yeah, you're going to go through this. Don't worry, I already know though. I'm telling you ahead of time. I already know that well." So there's this beauty of him knowing and giving Peter this heads up, and Peter not really realizing that, do I know him? Why didn't I believe him when he said it? Why didn't I see the mercy he had for realizing what I was going through? Why didn't I take a moment to just realize how much overhit he is? As he's in here, Jesus is in before the council right now, being slapped around in complete ignorance, in complete disobedience of the law, really. Something we'll dig into more with Judas hanging himself tomorrow. Finally refilled enough, I think I can go back to doing these, and yay! We don't know the intent. We know that Peter made an oath. Something that we know when Jesus is like, yeah, don't make oaths like that. Just say or don't. And why is he doing it? Well, I don't want to get in trouble. So he's defaulting to this religious place. How often do we default to this religious place? We don't think about how often he is there meeting our needs, meeting our mercies, going above and beyond everything we ask or imagine. We spend so much time getting about this idea of, more than I can ask and imagine. Does that mean he's a genie? No. Because it misses in Isaiah where it's my thoughts are not your thoughts, my ways are not your ways, and so much higher as the heavens are above the earth, so my ways are different from yours. We forget this. We forget that God is using different things. We look at Job and go, well, why would God put anyone through that? For us. For every person who came after Job and had a moment of realizing, wait, when shit goes sideways, I just need to cling to the one who can fix it. Abraham. Well, you've been with me so far, so you'll find a way. Even on the way up, the ram will be provided. God will see to it. Jireh, that's where we get it, is the story of God providing a ram in the thicket in place of Isaac. And that is a test of true character. Was it a test? Yes. Most of life comes with them. These 3 or 4 moments that are in every moment. What are we going to do? Are we going to hold to the struggles that we think are not already paid for? Are we going to hold to that which is already taken care of? Are we going to hold to the world? Are we going to release it and trust Him? Now, I'll take, for example, what's going on now in the world. If you've looked at primary media sources, things like that, you're probably seeing that the world is in one state. If you're looking at the actual live streams on the ground and the people doing things, you're seeing it as a completely different. And I have to tell you, no duh. Yeah, and please, the reason I say this is because I spent many years reading Revelation. A lot. I've always been interested in apocalyptic literature, especially the idea of knowing what comes next. And the more I've realized that what comes next, God has already spoke of here. It's this weird little thing that shows He's truly over time. Because what is to come in the future has already been spoken about before. The exile of Israel was spoken about with Deuteronomy. Moses himself, when you do this, because I've been with you for 80 plus years now. Actually, at this point, he's 120, who's been with him for 80 plus years now, and he's just sick of it. I mean, it's him being so sick of it's why he got kicked out of couldn't get to go into the promised land. That's a whole lot of different discussions there, though. In the same vein, though, how often will we hold on to things rather than give it to God? Do we get rid of emotion? No. We remind it through reason. Because reason is as much a gift as emotion is. And Abraham's faith is founded on reason, not blindness. Never blindness. Blind faith is not a thing in the Bible. Reasoned faith is. God met me before. He's meeting me now. He will meet me again. Simple logic. Childlike logic. But we are called to be childlike, not childish. Anyway, I digress. The reason I say duh is because it's that same cyclical thing here. And this in the Revelation. Is it written to the far-flung future? Yes. Does it have to be read in the context of the first century church? Yes. Yeah. Does Daniel and Jeremiah and Isaiah and Ezekiel and John and Revelation and all of it point to the same cyclical nature of where if history does not repeat itself, surely it rhymes, where every nation eventually becomes Babylon. Where at the day of the Lord, where you have some people that are rejoicing and eating and drinking and going about their lives. Well, yes. Yes, if you are on one side of things, you are eating, you are drinking, you are going about your lives. You are being told on media why inflation is not a bad thing. Seriously, had it pop on my Yahoo News. It was a little concerning. But you are following one side of things. Eating and drinking and going about revelry. On the other side of things, you're seeing the struggles and the darkness and the Lord cover your remnant. And we see that here too. The day of the Lord when talked about in Jeremiah. Because what I was referencing was Jeremiah. That or Isaiah. It might have been Isaiah. They get a little blended together for me sometimes because they're very different. Isaiah is like a micro version of the entire Bible. Jeremiah is agony about seeing what happens when this kind of stuff goes on. It is not a surprise, it is a heartbreak, and it is a place of gratitude that God is consistent. That way back when, he had his remnant. Way back in the Abraham kind of days. Remember, he brought out Lot. It was for Abraham's sake, but he still brought out Lot and his daughters. Even gave them an inheritance in that area. Because he tells the people of Israel when they go in, that they are not allowed to take land from those who are descended from Lot, Moab. Nor are they to take from their cousin Esau. So God has a place for that too. There's this beautiful place where God's using it all. When there are denial moments that he already knows are coming, he's already paid for it. Those moments of, what if I could get my name unwritten? That's God's territory. Perfect love casts out all fear, because fear has to do with punishment. Why are you worried about being punished? God loves you. He died for you. If there's something he's convicting you to do, is incorrect behavior. If it is guilt, well, God doesn't traffic in that. Religion does. And conviction or guilt are two very different things. And I think here, in Peter's life, we see conviction with the weeping bitterly. Because he's realizing at this moment in his life, he knows nothing about the love of Christ. Not really. He phileos Christ. But he does not agape yet. Because the Peter we see here may not know him. The Peter weeping bitterly after the final rooster crows, remembering what his Messiah and King said to him. The one who said to him, "On this rock I will build my church." This Peter, and the Peter that wrote 1st and 2nd Peter, who said, "You are the righteousness of Christ Jesus, by the power of his blood," that Peter, we're seeing him grow here. We're seeing the stages of seed being sown. Of realizing that when you take it from the religious side of things, you will always be lost in the dark and the wilderness will lead you astray. Because you will cry out to go back to Egypt, a land that has become Babylon. And yes, I reckon it's the biblical poetry of it, the Hebrew poetry of it. Every nation becomes Babylon. Every nation that doesn't submit itself to God eventually becomes a place where tyranny reigns, where the weakest among us will be crushed and flattened upon, where those who keep everything running will be smashed. It is a top-down build. That's why it never works. As human beings are made to be equal, on an equal plane. Egypt, a place where one human being who says, "I'm related to God, so I'm in charge." Okay? That's cool. The actual Son of God came and washed his disciples' feet. So here we can see a little bit of difference too. Those who think themselves God, smashing everybody down, whereas the actual God lifted up the least of these. Even says, "Welcome to the kingdom because you have looked after the least of these." This is the kind of love that he shows, the kind of mercy he has. So much knowledge that he said, yeah, Peter, this is going to happen. It's going to suck. It's going to hurt. It's not going to be fun. I'm with you the whole way. I've told you it would happen. And if you hold to me, you'll see the other side. Because if I told you it's going to happen, it's going to happen. But you'll make it. You'll make it. All you have to do is trust and you'll make it. The ram will appear when it's needed. The hand that calls out stop will be heard. And that's a beautiful thing here. So Jesus knew, told in advance, proving himself at bare minimum a prophet, because, we have to see these things again and again and again. So we have to take it from the fact that, prophet, son of God, yeah. Sometimes you need baby steps to get to the realization that this is the God whom we serve. The one who loves with reckless abandon, the one who would come down from the mountaintop to dwell with his people. The one who sends his son to die so we may live when we trust. This Peter who is hurting, who is suddenly remembering Jesus' words, who is weeping in agony, who is a reminder to us about how often we will betray Jesus, will betray those moments because we want to conform to the world, because we want to go along to get along, because it is easier to say, well, I just have to do it. No, the path of the exile says, I will work for the benefit of Babylon. Not for its benefit, but so that people will come to praise my God, being a city on a hill. I will not do what Babylon says to do that is against what my God has convicted me to do. I won't. Nor will I do what my God has told me not to do. By his grace, by his mercy, by his love, by his strength, because let's face it, Paul admitted it himself. I can, but I don't. I want to, but I won't. Jesus in the garden not too long ago. The spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. And even that beauty comes together with Paul. I revel in my weakness because in those places God is seen strong. God is made strong because his grace is sufficient. This is the beautiful interconnected lattice work of God saying, it will be okay. The God who not only sees this Peter weeping bitterly as he's getting slapped. The Peter, Simon, really, who Jesus got in the boat of. All the way to the Peter who wrote letters reminding people to stay close to him, who was and is to come. Son of God. Because let's face it, there are often times where in front of everybody, we will deny. We'll do an action that we know is completely against it. We try not to. And God convicts us to not do that again. Go and sin no more. It's not sarcasm. Saying, don't let this moral failure kill you. Do not camp in this valley. Do not let this pain be the last of it. Do not let the suffering that is to come be all that there is, because we get a bountiful helping of joy as much as the sorrow. It's a place of trust and it is a place of rest. It is a place of rest that he gives. So that we have those moments, he already knows. And if we're called by his name, we're marked by him, and turn, chase after the one. Listen to the voice of the Good Shepherd. Don't listen to the voices of the world. Listen to the one who loves. And remember and be learned how to love. Listen to the one who is merciful and be shown mercy. Showing mercy. This beautiful place where we get to put forward that which we have been given. Mercy, love, kindness. We bear the fruits of the Spirit because his Spirit grows us anew. So we mean a new creation. All of this, God sees ahead. He knows. He formed us, He knows us before He formed us in our mother's womb. He knows the choices. It's like, well, does that mean we ever? Yeah. We have the free will to follow after Him. Use it. Chase. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open. Because God is here speaking His love, His mercy. He can't forget us any more than a mother could forget the child at their breast. He says so Himself. Do not be afraid. God knows the struggles. Just never let go of Him. Stop denying Him. Realize the things we do that deny Him and get rid of them. Because it is better to enter the kingdom of heaven with only one arm than to be cast out with both. Because He didn't want to let the world go. I know it seems confusing. I know it seems hard. How does one let go of the world? How does one let go of the walls, of the pain, of the shells we used to hide? How does one forgive pain and suffering that has been dealt our entire lives? How does one surrender when one has spent their entire life in a fight? It is simply this. It is not your fight. It never was. You were there. It's not your fight. The struggle is there, but it is not yours. It has already been paid for. Lay down the walls because they inevitably shut things off and out. How are you supposed to protect yourself? By listening to God and letting Him be the one to protect you. Does a child run around protecting themselves, or do they trust their parent to do it? Is it our armor, or is it His? We are called the childlike faith. A childlike logic moment of saying, wait, you've done it before, you'll do it again. You're the God who makes water from rocks and bread from heaven. We'll be fine. Highways through seas and dry bones coming to life at a word. Do we believe it? Do we really believe it? Because if we do, then there's no reason to have the wall. And if we don't, then like today's passage, we can take a moment to have that realization not end us. The tears not break us. But the joy of knowing God will see us through. God will see to it because He already has. He knows the struggles because He already died for them. He knows what's to come because He already planned you out for going through it. It's all a place of trust. Is He greater or is the world? Because the Word says, greater is He who is living in me, the Holy Spirit, than he who is in the world. And because we know there are more for us than against us, we can celebrate and praise. Not because the show is going on, not because of the suffering, not because of the chaos, not because of the pain, not because of the destruction that is being wrought by the enemy in the world. The gods of Egypt, if you will, that have been bowed to. The Babylonian structures and twigs being praised. But because God is consistent. Because God saves His remnant. And those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Those who trust in the Lord shall be saved. I think it's time, past time, well past time, the body, no matter what its subcategory, takes that to heart. So we start realizing in our being that God loves us that much, we can start loving others. And if you gotta weep bitterly like Peter did, it's okay. He's here holding you too, as you turn to Him and away from the childish things of this world. I'll see you guys tomorrow as we pick up with chapter 7, verses 27, my apologies. We pick up on chapter 27, verses 1 through 10, Judas hanging himself, where we get to see something perhaps a little different. At the very least, God's seeing things way more in advance. I'll see you then. May His favor be upon you. Know in your heart, listen, that you are loved. Because if you only can in it, weep bitterly and ask Him to know you more. Yeah, you're asking Him that you would know Him more. Sorry, English. And do it, seriously. Asking you shall receive. So if you want to know Him more, ask. Knock. Door will be open. Seek, you'll find. Because it's not a hide and seek game. It's oh hey, I'm going to go find my parent because this place is a maze of insanity and mild stupidity and I want nothing to do with it. I mean, if that's how we're feeling, then chase to the one who knows the way out. Childlike logic, right? I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hold strong. Don't give up. And cling to Him. Because no matter what, He was, He is, and He is to come. I'll see you then.